felt the need for speed.
Step one right here. Dude's freaking hauling ass. Alright, well. We got a stack of parts and a vision. Let's get this sucker in the air and taken apart. And however long it takes to, build it. And it should be pretty fun. Can't wait. This is gonna be cool. The LT Yode starts right now because it's hot as hell. Bam. So here it is. This is what we're working with right now. Works great. Love the shock. Love how it rides. All that. Full drive. I was gonna run this Durabump and just keep it with my, long travel kit when I do it. But it decided to, these are really shitty. They just glue in apparently. I'll probably try to glue that back on, I guess, or get a different bump, but those suck. I've had them on for maybe 6 months. Not even. Like 2 months. I think I've had these things on and they're already done. So, I mean, I hate to shit on them, but let's be real, that is that's kind of stupid. That's ridiculous. I mean, not much to it. It's a piece of rubber, a really freaking expensive piece of rubber. I might just end up doing either hydros or Chevy bump stops in the front. I have them in the rear, and honestly, they're really good. I like how they perform, so we might do that. We're gonna start pulling all this off and cleaning it and getting it all, nice, so that when I work on it, I don't hate life. But yeah, this is it right now. Stage one, guys. So I think the biggest takeaway, when building these, they're not invincible. They're good trucks, but they're prone to having some cracks here and there, and you don't want to keep welding stuff. You want to just do it really first, right the first time. I don't think you need to long travel these trucks. It's kind of based, obviously it's more money. But I want to do these videos because I think that there's a way to do these that aren't crazy breaking the bank, and I'm going to show all the different options, all the gussets that you can do, all the the work that it takes to build these things into a pre-runner. I'm not much of a, I know the overland people are like a thing now. I'm not doing that. This thing's not getting a camper. It's not getting any storage or, goofy shovels and shit like that. It's gonna be, kind of just a little weekend warrior truck. It's gonna have long travel. It's gonna have coils, big coils. And I'm probably gonna wheel it, on rocks, and I'll probably just hit some desert stuff, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't ever plan on camping out of this thing. That's not really my thing. So if you like that kind of stuff, this is the video for you, and this is what we are working with. I did tack a lot of this. Now, I'm gonna go over everything in other videos and stuff like that, or other clips that I got on my phone. But this is what we got. This is the start. Still got a lot of work. It's not even close. I still got to cycle everything. Still need axles. I'm waiting on axles. But I think this is a good start. I want to say, I don't have any sponsors or nothing like that. And I think that when it comes to these trucks, people kind of shy away and think that they're just kind of unattainable to do a long travel setup on them. And if they do, how they have to have some deep pockets. But, I don't make a ton of money. I'm just trying to piece it together little by little, and I've accumulated enough parts to start making videos on it, I guess. So, I kind of want to do some videos on like building the gussets and doing a lot of like the strengthening work on it, because I think that's almost more important than really what you have for suspension. Being able to push the limit of whatever suspension you have is kind of the most important part. If you're running a mid-travel kit, and that's your thing, there's nothing worse than just having a truck that slowly but surely just starts to not drive straight. It starts to veer off and things are kind of clunking, and you're like, okay, well, what's that noise? I think building it correctly, like there's so many parts for these trucks, and I think that a lot of them are overlooked because they spend money on some coils. Like I said, I got them, there's a fender right there, I got them in the back. I ran them, they're good, they work good, super comfortable. Garage is a mess, whole shop is a mess. These are the coils we're doing. All right, I'll do another video on those one day. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of new to making videos, but this is what we're working with. It's a good start. Cleaned up, stripped down. It's gonna get a bumper. It's gonna get, arms. I'm gonna do a rear bumper. I'm just gonna start filming all the stuff that I do to it. The majority of it though is just getting everything gusseted up first, because when you start cycling everything, you don't want to get to a point where you're stuck. The worst part that you can do when you're building something is get it all welded, finish welded, and you think it's strong and it's good to go, and then you start cycling stuff and stuff is binding up or not working with each other, or certain parts are not compatible with each other. I'm going to try to avoid all that. That's why a lot of my arm is tacked up. That's why a lot of the gussets haven't been put on yet. We're going to start with the lowers, gusseting that, because it's kind of nothing that can really hurt there. But once the parts start to flow in like they have been, then I'll have more stuff to do on it. But like I said, I'm doing this the not cheapest way. There's really no, it's a bad word to say cheap when you're doing these, but a way that's attainable and like you can progressively build yourself. I just wanted to do it all at once because it's all apart at once. I don't feel like taking off those wheels more times than I need to. But these are all things that you can start to Christmas list, if you will, and slowly start building. So yeah. That'll work. Okay, so a little different from the last time I took a video, but we have one side somewhat done, somewhat welded up, well, all welded up all the way around, but cycled. The axle is 4.5 over, guarantee 4.5 over stock. This kit that I was using, I'm basically just using the steel for it at this point. It was too long. It was like 5.5 or so, or no, maybe it was 5. It measured out to basically needing to cut 1 inch off of the arm itself to bring it in. I did that by, like I said, I'm just using the metal at this point, but I cut 1 inch into it, right, this way, keeping the pivots so that your uniball to an aspect from your unibolt to your where the shock will mount, this is the same. So the geometry as far as getting this shock mount to fit, you know, in the bucket without it getting scattered around. You could always move your shock mounts wherever you need them, but I kind of wanted to keep the strength of the original design, so I took an inch out of basically this area and I was able to bring this in an inch. So not only am I cutting, you know, that out, but I'm bringing the pivots. So from this point to that point, I'm bringing that shorter. So basically I was able to cut an inch out of it without really messing with it too much. And I had to kind of bring this in anyway. I wanted to give myself some more steering angle. It was a little bit wide and it was hitting kind of early, so I did, you know, basically narrow it by angling everything in a little bit more. Nice little welds right there. But yeah, so it's been kind of a process to figure out what I needed, but that's fine. Kind of figured there'd be something coming up. But we're still cracking away. This is the other side. I'm just kind of cutting everything, and then where the notches are, originally wasn't going to do the notches, but where the notches are is kind of helps align things easier for tacking and stuff like that. So I cut those into it again. Gotta grind it off. This little plasma cutter, Amazon Lodos, I think it's a 5 something. I don't remember what it is. I'll have to find out. If you want to know which one this one is, let me know and I'll get you the price and part number and all that. But this thing is awesome. It's the best, you know, $500 or whatever I spent. It really beats the hell out of cutting every single piece out of a, you know, angle grinder. That would suck. So plasma cutting everything out, bringing everything shorter. It sucks, but it just is what it is. The upper arm also has to get cut an inch shorter, so I'm gonna be cutting that guy, moving it an inch back again too. Got some frame plates cut out, you know, in the areas where they tend to break. You know, they tend to break on these frames. I'm basically gonna hang my limit strap off of it because I guess we can talk about that real quick. DR driver. This is gonna go ish, you know, in there. Haven't, you know, grinded it down or nothing. This is just straight off the plasma cutter, so it's gonna go in this area to not only strengthen it up, but I want to be able to hang my you know, billet limit strap off of it. And I want it to be a flat surface. There's kind of a indentation right there. I want it to be a flat surface. I want to get the angle correct I want to match that tab angle, and then you basically get, you know, the same degree of that into this to be able to make sure everything's straight when it's fully drooped and it's not going to bend tabs or nothing like that. Also, this is a pretty heavy duty piece. If I were to weld it straight to a frame, I think there's a misconception that frames are really strong on Toyotas or whatever, but it's still like, you know, it's this thick of steel. It's tiny, you know, thin steel, and it'll rip right off. So you got to plate it. If you're hanging tabs or anything like that, you want to plate it. The only part, you know, you don't really plate, I guess, would be this area. Be kind of hard to do that with this kit. But yeah, I got the upper strut tower brackets in, the gussets, I mean. Looks pretty good, and they're nice and strong, so that'll be good. Nice little progress I think we're making on this. Cracking along, you know, working out kinks. This is what I mean by so this is the side of it, right? Side of the arm. It's kind of rusty. I have to bring an inch back on everything. Moving your pivot, so if I were to cut from this side, right, where the uniball is, it wouldn't be the same and it wouldn't cycle correctly, so you have to cut it out of basically the rear pivot is what I was kind of equating it to, because you know, there's a lot that could go wrong. I mean, the geometry right now, it's, you know, it is what it is, but it cycles 8-inch coilover completely, so I am gonna take that as a win, because I mean, it's 4-wheel drive, you know. 4-wheel drives kind of suck for building pre-runners out of, only because of clearance and whatnot for the CV. You could get RCVs and whatnot. I'm just not planning on doing that right now. These axles work fine. On this truck, I typically try not to use the 4-wheel drive too much. You know, I usually just use it if I need it. So it should be fine, as is. Just, yeah. Working out the, see this also right here, bam. I cut it to basically, this goes here. Let's say this goes here. I basically cut it so that instead of it normally going right there, you know, it's gonna bend in more and be able to, you know, give my steering a little bit more clearance, because it does hit right here. So it didn't need much. It, you know, a little bit here or there, but that'll work. I kind of got the steering, you know, mocked up for what I'm gonna need, and it seems like it works pretty good. So keep cracking along. That's getting smaller, which is good. This is my little, you know, makeshift little finger brake that I made. Works really good. Cost me $0. So we are doing the other arm, so that's getting welded up. Truck's over there still. We got just a box of crap dwindling, and this place is a mess. Oh my god, but look at that. We got some juicy parts right there, and it's just a lot of cycling, a lot of figuring out where things rub, where things don't rub. But we should be finished welding this thing pretty soon. Got that thing cooling down. So I skipped ahead a lot because I feel like it's boring to watch, you know, me just, I mean, my welds or whatever. I think I could throw them down okay, you know, fine. I'll probably throw a couple clips, but the biggest problem I was running into, this is just to hold it. The biggest problem I was running into was the axle 4.5 over. It ended up being just a little bit too long, so I had to cut the kit up a bit. It wasn't a big deal because the kit is still 4.5. It's just, I think the kit, but I think it was too big, and so I had to be cut down just a scotch, and that helped. Everything, you know, cycles nice. The biggest, you know, hurdle that I was trying to get you know, hold of was this gap. By bringing the arms in more, I was able to bring the knuckle in just a tad. That way this bolts up where it needs to. And with 4-wheel drive, your limiting factor is always going to be your axle. This kit cycles probably about 14, maybe more with with you know, bump to bump, but arm can hit right in that corner if we don't bump it correctly. So we're gonna have to bump everything off the arm. Not a big deal, that's kind of expected. Got the shock in there, that was pretty cool. Maybe I'll put some clips up of that, but yeah, basically you want your shock, you want your axle in, you want your arms in, and you want to cycle everything. Cycling is really important because, you know, if you build it wrong, it could be all the way just all droop, and then, you know, maybe 2 inches of up travel, and then it's useless. So you want to make sure you're getting, you know, at least, this is about 12 inches of travel. We're looking around, and this is a guesstimate, maybe like, you know, 6 up, 6 down, but that would be, you know, in a perfect scenario. And we are hitting up here, like I said, so making sure everything can compress all the way up to where it uses the absolute most of the shock travel, that's key. You want it to be all the way up and be able to bump all the way up into there without the shock, you know, binding prematurely and blowing your whole, you know, arm apart, shock apart. So maybe I'll show something like that, but I did skip ahead, like I said, so bear with me. But this is the arm. If you're welding anything with a uniball, make sure you buy one of these, by the way. Don't ask me how I know, but you can really warp one of those. So make sure you get the slug, the brass slug. It's nice to have the slugs for those also. I don't have them. Not too big of a deal because it's going into polyurethane, but it's coming out pretty good so far. All right, we are back. Lots to talk about. It's pretty much there. There's a lot of stuff to do still. Like I need to tighten the lowers still, get the brakes on. I got the brake lines, the extended ones. Making sure everything at full droop. This is completely, off the ground. So at full droop, this is gonna be really where things are gonna be yanking. All your forces are going down. You're more worried about stuff pinching all the way up at top. You don't want, say this line is getting hit by this, or maybe at a certain point, your brake line is getting crimped too hard, or maybe hitting something. That kind of stuff you want to worry about while you're doing your cycling going up. But as far as going down, this is really when stuff can be ripped out. I think we're going with different limit straps. These are freaking thin and they kind of suck. So, oh my god, are they ripping? They may possibly be ripping already. These things, I had those laying around. I wanted to get those on there, but I think I'm gonna get some PRPs ordered. But I don't plan on, jumping this thing or anything like that anytime soon. I just...
Okay. Let's go.
So, it is raining where I'm at. which is good. The steering, which I'm doing a video on, obviously is rusted. That's my fault. I didn't keep up enough with keeping all the WD-40 and whatnot, keeping it maintained. I'm gonna end up just stripping it and painting it probably this week. This is kind of like I wouldn't say like review, but more of like, not like a long-term review, but more of just, you know, an update, because this kit has been kicking ass. We took it to Hammers. I've been running this arm kit now for almost 2 years, so it's been taking me a while to post anything or download anything. I wanted to make sure I wasn't making some whack kit that just barely worked. This thing works. You know, it's got the clearance, it's got the articulation, the four-wheel drive works great on it. It cycles travel really well. It honestly, for what it is, it eats pretty well. It needs tuning like everything else. It needs a bypass. It needs not, you know, rubber bumps. But this isn't much. This arm kit isn't anything more than, you know, an inch forward, maybe an inch and a quarter forward, and stock knuckle, right? We ran, only update I've done is that these are actually extended bolts. These are the same thread pitch as what's stock, but they're just a ½ inch longer, because I wasn't getting quite the thread engagement that I wanted, especially with running this spacer right here. That spacer's there just basically to help with geometry a little bit, and also gives the CV axle clearance from hitting the arm, because before it was at full extension, it was actually kind of rubbing a bit. So once I figured that out, got some machined spacers that are only, you know, I want to say they're a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch thick. And that helped. You know, it's a 10 millimeter. So it's a 10 millimeter spacer in there that basically spaced it out just enough to run everything happy. This bolt goes under the axle now. Easy disassembly and whatnot. The front kit, you know, built it in my garage. And we've just been, you know, running it through its paces. I think Johnson Valley was the first time we really got to open it up. Full Heim steering, you know, how I would feel comfortable off-roading in a way that's safe without a cage. You know, I think a lot of people, they do the arms, they'll give you like this outer Heim kind of setup where you have one Heim joint on this side and just the stock inner. I think that's kind of a waste of time, to be honest, because the Heim and spacer or extension or whatever you want to call it, that's always going to be strong. It's probably not going to break. But the problem is, if you're running a stock inner, that's the first spot it's going to break. It's literally a bolt that runs through. It's a little stick. I'll try to show you. This is your stock steering. Obviously this is extended by me, 4.5 over. Usually what they do is they'll give you a Heim joint on this side, a sleeve, and there'll be this rod that goes all the way across the inner. That inner will snap. And if it doesn't snap, it bends. So I wanted it to be on full Heim steering before I started beating the shit out of this thing, because, you know, I'd say the next culprit is going to be that steering shaft that comes down. Those are hollow on the inside, so they have a tendency to snap. That's going to get replaced soon. But as far as the actual Heim steering, make it yourself, buy it. No matter how you need to get there, because LT is nothing without some strong steering. Even this steering as it is with the Heim joint is not crazy strong. It's just stronger. So there's going to be a breaking point somewhere. There's going to be a weak spot. But we will find that way later than we would have with a setup like this. And this worked okay for a while, and it's fairly strong for what it is. But it's really just temporary steering. This was never supposed to go on the truck as long as it was. That's why we got Heim steering. As far as the geometry, as far as the kit, it's working great. It needs a bypass, it needs a tune. Story of most of these trucks, I'll try to include some video of it at King of Hammers, but I think it's finally time let these videos go, because I just been I built it, videoed it, and just wanted to make sure it had a good test. I didn't want to be putting something on there that was just not gonna work, that was gonna end up getting taken off anyway. I thought that'd probably be a waste of time. So it's really been put through its paces. It hits whoops, it hits jumps. I could burn blast in this truck. We were hitting big sandy corners in this thing at high speed. It handles pretty good. I've had a lot of people tell me from the outside looking in that it's doing what it needs to do. Doesn't pull a ton of travel, pulls enough travel, so I think the 14 inches of travel on this sucker is plenty. It feels stout. Like when you drive the truck, it doesn't feel like it's getting pushed around by the bumps. It feels like it's pushing bumps around. The steering, honestly, from the feedback in the actual steering wheel, it doesn't have a lot of bump steer. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm pretty sure it's true because it feels stout when it drives around. These pivots don't feel like they have any give. These are the opt-off-road Campbell Eliminator. I don't ever feel like it's gonna buckle in that area. I feel like it is super strong. It feels like the feedback throughout the chassis of the truck is noticeable. So next week we're taking it to Pismo. I'm gonna try to clean up that steering before we end up touching salt water, but my plan is Pismo next week. Tires are kind of turned right now just because of how I was pulling in, but it's doing great. I mean, I have no complaints. I'm sure there are kits that work better than this. I'm sure they're out there. I don't really care. For what it is, it works great. I think it's time I talk to an actual tuner, guy that actually knows what he's talking about, and give them some info and get some feedback, and hopefully I can get a custom setup for this truck in particular. But for being an 8-inch coilover that wasn't even supposed to go in this arm kit and a 16-inch bypass off an Ultra 4 truck, this thing's doing what it needs to, and it's doing it in a way that's kind of surprising. So that's good. I mean, I think that's a win-win. The only damage we took at Hammers is we kind of smoked this lower skid plate a little bit. That's all right. It's made to do that, so cannot complain. We were driving this thing about 3 days straight, I'd say. We put over 200 miles on it, just dirt. So it's really turning heads. It's really surprising me for how simple it is. This thing's just a straight mobber. I mean, we were chasing around the trucks, watching all the different races and whatnot, and it never got stuck. It never had a problem going anywhere. The real big stuff, it's not hitting trophy truck lines, but it's keeping up with Can-Ams, no problem. It's keeping up with side-by-sides. We're making funny passes, laughing, at night, passing people in the whoops in it. And it's just a blast. I mean, this thing rips. It's slow. It's got stock gears, but the miles per gallon off the charts on this sucker. So just want to give a last little update on that, and really just kind of end this with like a almost 2-year review of this front end. And I mean, it doesn't get dailied. It's my my second truck, or second car rather, but it can be, you know, it's one of those trucks you can drive it around no problem. You can beat on it all weekend and then, you know, turn around and go home if you wanted to. So really happy with the outcome. Like I said, I'm going to get into some videos of when I was building the rear pretty soon here, and obviously there's always more to add, so there's going to be other videos. I'm planning on caging it hopefully late this year or maybe next year. I caged the truck recently. I'll probably be posting a video on the whole process in the summer on a different second gen, but it will be the same process in this. So I'm gonna end up caging this guy with full interior inside the cab. I'm not doing a crazy race cage. I don't ever plan on racing this truck. It's just to keep us safe. I figure, you know, a basic cage will let us go a little faster. We don't need to be going any faster than this truck needs to be going. So I hope you like it. You know, I hope you stick around. I have a hard time taking videos of myself working on stuff. But, you know, we're doing what we can. And I think what we can do is pretty awesome. I think, like I said, for a kit that was built right here in this garage with, you know, some of the geometry figured out, but most of it not, I'd say we did pretty good. So hope you like it. Hope you, you know, subscribe, whatever, do all that. I don't really care. Like I said, these videos are hard to get out in a timely manner, and also film myself. So the Miyagi truck is a go. I'm going to be getting some good video of it pretty soon here once I get my buddy with the real nice camera. Get some good shots of this truck and hopefully in action at Pismo. You know, we'll be taking lots of video, lots of pictures. So hope you like it. See you next time.